Yeah, no, I feel like we could talk all day about, this topic of free speech on campus, but in our last few minutes together, I did want to touch on another policy that affects college campuses, affirmative action, the ruling that got struck down. The Supreme Court struck down affirmative action in a ruling earlier this year. So, how does something like that affect an HBCU like Morehouse?
Our applications are surging.
Well, why do you think that so many students are wanting to go to an HBCU after that ruling?
For a couple of reasons. One, I think we're entering a period where Black students who are high performing and their parents no longer simply assume that being at a predominantly white institution is better than being at a historically Black college and university, especially if my child, who has done very well in high school, excel, is now gonna, have their qualifications questioned. I went to Yale in 1974. I arrived there. My entire class had 74 Black students. The campus at that point in time had less than 250. Do I want to send my young person who's very talented to a place where they're going to be a unicorn? And if we look at what happened in California, right, when they voted away affirmative action in college admissions, places like the University of California at Berkeley saw a 70% drop in African American students on campus. Today, I think in part because of what happened there, California represents the largest group of applicants at Morehouse College, and that's been the case for more than a decade. So I think it's sending Black families to look for alternatives. And if you look at places like Morehouse, Spelman, Howard, we're the largest producer of Black men who go on to get PhDs. We're the largest feeder of Black men to the top 10 law schools and business schools. So if you come to Morehouse, you can go anywhere that you can go from Harvard or from Yale.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think we're seeing the surge.
Yeah, so do you feel like policymakers are sincere in their discussions when it comes to underfunding and HBCUs and the issue that you are facing in terms of lack of funding? Or do you feel like there has been some progress? And if not, what gaps can be done? How can you fill the gaps given the increase of applicants?
Great question. I think that the policymakers that are taking up the issue are serious about it. The challenge is that they are a minority among those who will make those decisions. And the data is very clear. In particular, when you look at historically Black colleges and universities that are state schools, that in places like Maryland, Alabama, Georgia, over the last 50 years, the underfunding amounts to billions of dollars. I have not in Georgia seen a movement in the Georgia legislature to correct that underfunding, right? And disproportionately begin to resource those schools to bring them to where they need. And indeed, a number of them are suffering from that underfunding today. And there's no serious effort to address it. So I think among policymakers at the Department of Education, the answer is yes. I think they're sincere. Within legislatures in these states where the underfunding has happened, which are southern states where 90% of historically Black colleges and universities reside, there's no serious movement.